Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 19, Verse 11. Anecha Devarshi Brahmarshi Varya Rajarshi Varya Arul Nadayascha Nanarshaya Praparan Sametan Avyarcha Raja Sirasa Vavandi. Anye, many others, Cha, also, Devarshi, saintly demigods, Brahmarshi, saintly brahmanas, Varya, topmost, Rajarshi Varya, topmost saintly kings, Arunadaya, a special rank of Rajarshis, Cha, and Nana, many others, Arshaya Pravaran, chief amongst the dynasties of the sages, Sametan, assembled together, Abhyarcha, by worshipping, Raja, the emperor, Sirasa, bowed his head to the ground, Avavande, welcomed. Translation: there were also many other saintly demigods, kings, and special royal orders called Arunadayas from different dynasties of sages. When they all assembled together to meet the emperor Parikshit, he received them properly and bowed his head to the ground. Purport: the system of bowing the head to the ground to show respect to superiors is an excellent etiquette which obliges the honored guest deep into the heart. Even the first great offender is excused simply by this process. And Maharaj Parikshit, although honored by all the rishis and kings, welcomed all the big men in that humble etiquette in order to be excused from any offenses. Generally, at the last stage of one's life, this humble method is adopted by every sensible man in order to be excused before departure. In this way, Maharaj Parikshit implored everyone's goodwill for going back home, back to Godhead. Translation: there were also many other saintly demigods, kings, and special royal orders called Arunadayas from different dynasties of sages. When they all assembled together to meet the Emperor Parikshit, he received them properly and bowed his head to the ground. The previous verses described some of those sages who had gathered there. And so we had Bharadwaj and Gautama and Vasishta and Vishwamitra, very, very famous, Bhrigu, Chavana, Angira, etc. And even, of course, we had incarnations of the Lord like Narada Muni and Parsaram, who are Shaktivesh avatars present there. So this verse simply indicates others were also there who were very well known and established, but their names aren't mentioned. So we have Devarshis, Brahmarshis, and Rajarshis, etc., all sorts of exalted personalities among kings and rishi sages, and they all came and offered to hear this conversation. They all came to give respects to Parikshit. And then Parikshit, as explained here in this verse, he offered his respects by putting his head on the ground. In this way he welcomed them and, as Prabhupada explains in the purport, asked to be forgiven for any offenses he had committed against them. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that this simple method of bowing the head to the ground is a very good etiquette for pleasing the guest and for ridding oneself of any offense. So we see this is, of course, quite common in Bhagavatam. We see there people are always putting their head on the ground, whatever. And of course, in front of the Supreme Lord, we find that the devatas and the great kings offer their crowns on the ground to offer respects to the Supreme Lord, either Vishnu or Krishna. So very, very common way of giving respect. And we also see it is a common method in devotional service. In fact, it is one of the angas of devotional service. Of course, technically it is defined as this pranama is defined as offering with 8 parts of your body respects to the Lord, especially if you lie down on the ground. So your 2 feet and your 2 knees and your 2 hands and your 2 eyes and your voice and your mind, etc. all go down, and you're humbling yourself before the Supreme Lord. So that's considered one of the angas of devotional service. And of course, even in deity worship itself, it is the final anga. There's 16, we call sodasa upacharas, or 16 elements of deity worship, starting with welcoming the Lord, and then washing it, giving him asana or a seat, and then washing his feet, and then offering achaman and madhupark and arghya, etc., and then bathing. And then the final element is pranama, offering respects to the Lord by bowing down with one's head on the ground. Of course, if you can't do that, then the other one is you do partial, so you just you don't lie down on the ground, but with your knees on the ground and your hands on the ground and your head on the ground, you do that one. Either way, it is considered to be respect for the Lord. And of course, as I said, if you can't do all of these things of deity worship, at least you can show your respect. So therefore, when you come in the temple, you don't do all the deity worship, but at least you bow down in front of the Lord. So that's considered to be a type of worship of the Lord, and you're complete in doing your worship even by doing that. But with all of these elements of devotion, angas of devotion, the element that has to be there, of course, is the devotion itself. It's not a mechanical thing. So like we chant the holy name, but we should do it with devotion, or we should offer a flower to the deity, but Krishna says do it with devotion, do it with bhakti. So same with the pranamas or whatever we offer, it has to be done with devotion, and then it is very, very effective for us in pleasing the Lord or pleasing the devotees. If we don't have that devotion, of course, it can still have an effect, but it is not as powerful. Just like we can chant the holy name accidentally, we get some effect from that. So if you accidentally happen to offer your respects to the deity by going on the ground for some reason, accidentally, not meaning to offer respects, even that's good for you. Or if you see the deity accidentally without actually intentionally seeing the deity, then it's also good. So accidental has some effect, but as far as bhakti is concerned, we have to have that attitude of devotion. So therefore it says when you're doing your pranamas, also your mind is involved and your voice is involved. So you're actually thinking of the Lord also when you're offering respects. And what it means is that we, as we see with the great kings and the devatas, when they offer the respects to the Lord and they put the tips of their crowns on the ground like this, they're showing that they are the servant of the Lord. So this is just a way of showing you're the servant of the Lord. And it's described when in the story of how Brahma came to see Krishna in Dwarka. And then he went to the gate, and the gatekeeper said, "Who are you?" And he said, "Well, I'm Brahma." So then the gatekeeper sent a message to Krishna, and then got a message back, "Well, which Brahma?" So they asked, "Which Brahma are you?" And they said, "Well, I'm the four-headed Brahma of this universe." And then he was allowed to go in. Came in from the Lord, and then he offered his respects to the Lord. Said, "I just wanted to see you because I was feeling some separation from seeing you. But I said, I have a little question. Why did you say which Brahma?" Huh? And then Krishna said, "Well, there are many Brahmas." And then with his mind, he called all of the Brahmas from all the universes. And then suddenly they all appeared in the room. It was filled up with Brahmas. Some had 4 heads, some had 6 heads, some had 8 heads, some had 100 heads, some had 1,000 heads because they were bigger universes. There were tons of them. They all offered their respects on the ground, and they had their crowns on. And when their crowns hit the ground, there was a huge thundering sound of all their crowns hitting the ground. So they were offering their respects to Krishna to show that I am the servant of the Lord. In other words, they recognized that they were subservient, that they were jivas who were just infinitesimal particles, and they were servants of the Lord. So that is intrinsic to devotional service. The very essence of devotional service involves a recognition that we are the servant of the Lord. We're Nitya Krishna Dasa. We're the servant of the Lord. We're not supreme. And this implies that we're not the enjoyer. If we're the servant, we give the enjoyment to Krishna. So Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, and we are the enjoyed. We give him the enjoyment. So that's the basic mentality behind devotional service. But it is not forced service, nor is it neutral service. It is a willingness to accept that position of being the servant, that we're not supreme, and a willingness to serve. So that willingness means ultimately affection, and that's what bhakti is. That we accept that position of being the servant of the Lord, but we accept it not just with willingness, but with eagerness and with great affection. And we want to serve the Lord. So that's the essence of devotional service itself. So that pranama itself is a graphic indication of this. It is also physical. And one says it has its mental aspect and its verbal aspect also, as I said. So, but it has a very great physical aspect. So in the angas of devotional service, when it divides them up into different groups in the nectar of devotion out of the 64. So one group is the whole body, and another is the voice. So we have kirtan and offering prayers and things, recitation of verses, etc. Or eyes, seeing the deity, or seeing the arti, or seeing festivals. So that's for the eye. Or nose is to smell the incense or the flowers, or tongue is to taste the prasadam or the charnamrita, like that. So we have different senses involved. And then the whole body is, one of them is this pranama, offering respects to the Lord, putting one's head on the ground like that. So it's a anga which involves the whole body. In that, and then when you're doing that, then the voice is involved by doing what? Offering a prayer, a pranama prayer, like we say Namo Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prasad Guru, etc. That's a pranama prayer. Namaha, I offer my respects to so and so. So it's a common type of prayer. We have a Namo, or Vrinda Devi is Namo, whatever like this. Or another one, of course, is Vavande, as it says here, Vandana. Vandeham. That's another offer respects and bow down like this. So these are called pranama prayers. So when you're offering your respects, you also express it with your voice and you utter that prayer. So when we offer respects, then we say Namo Vishnupadaya. So that's pranam to Prabhupada. Or we offer respects to Krishna, then we may have another pranama for Krishna, like Namo Brahmani Devaya Go Brahmani Chai Cha, or whatever like that. So that's a namaskar prayer for Krishna. So we involve our voice. And then, of course, the mind. So we can't just absentmindedly do this. We're always supposed to be thinking of Krishna and never forgetting him and all the angas. So this anga devotional service, when we bow down on the ground, is we're saying the prayer, and we're recognizing ourselves as the servant of the Lord, that we're not supreme. We're giving the enjoyment to the Lord, and we want to serve him in all ways. But it has a prominent aspect of involving the whole body, so it's significant in that way. And we see that this is not just in devotional service or just within the Vedic realm. We find around the world a similar type of thing where people go on the ground also to offer respects to the Lord. They may kneel, or they may bow, or they may go flat on the ground, or whatever, in different cultures of the world, also just to show respect. So it is a common type of procedure to show respect and devotion. So this is what all of when the king and the kings and sages and other persons came, this is what Parikshit Maharaj did. He offered his respects to all of them very, very nicely to show that he was their servant. So the respects primarily go to the Supreme Lord, but we know that in devotional service, all the elements that we do to engage ourselves in devotional service can also be applied to the devotees. So we can do kirtan and glorify the devotee, or we do shravanam, hearing about the devotees, or seeing the devotees, etc. And then we can also do the offering respects to the devotees of the Lord. So this is what Parikshit Maharaj is doing here. He's offering respect to all these devotees. And they're not just ordinary persons, they're very, very exalted persons, as we see from this previous list. All of them, however, weren't the same type of devotees. Of course, we have great devotees, and we have incarnations of the Lord there, like Narada Muni and Veda Vyasa, etc. And of course, ultimately Sukadeva Goswami. But we find others who were more or less like sages who teach Karmakanda, or sages who teach Jnana and things like this. The Brahmarshis teach Jnana mainly, and involved in things. And I think we talked about the Arunayas here, Arunadayas. They are ones, I think, involved in meditation. They are yogis involved in meditating on the chakras of the body, etc. So they were all not exactly pure devotees, all of them. They're a very mixed group of persons involved in various types of practices. Nevertheless, they were all at the same time. They did have some devotion, and others were greater devotees, but they all gathered here. They had no feelings of, well, he's a great devotee of Krishna, so maybe we're not such great devotees of Krishna, we're Jnanis, why should we come here? Or we're involved in yoga, why should we come here and see the king? But because they understood the event was very significant, because ultimately Sukadeva Goswami would speak to him about Krishna. So they all gave respect to that, even if they weren't on the highest level of understanding everything about Krishna. But they gave respect to the idea that this is a very significant event with Sukadeva speaking Bhagavatam. So they were not so sectarian, even though they had their own practices and beliefs and concentration on different processes. Still, they were willing to all gather here. So it's also explained that they were gathered there, and when Sukadeva Goswami spoke the Bhagavatam, sometimes he appeals to these different groups. So we'll find in the Bhagavatam whole discussions of Varnashram and Karma Yoga in like the 3rd canto, Kapila Dev speaking, or in the 11th canto, Krishna himself speaking to Uddhava. So we have whole sections dealing with things which maybe are not ultimately bhakti, they don't emphasize bhakti so much. And then we have sections on Jnana and Yoga, again in 3rd canto, 11th canto, quite elaborate descriptions there. One explanation is that, well, the whole purpose of Bhagavatam is to show Krishna is supreme, but in order to attract these different members of the audience, Sukadeva therefore included all of these different elements here so that they would get some little attraction that way and be a little more attentive by mentioning their different processes here. So therefore we get karma, jnana, and yoga also described, not just bhakti. So this is because there were many different types of people in the audience. And again, it is said that Sukadeva Goswami did not speak directly everything. So yes, he speaks about bhakti directly, but he does not speak about the higher aspects of bhakti, and particularly about Radha and Krishna. In fact, Radharani isn't even mentioned directly by name, and the other gopis are not mentioned either. Whereas we'll find in other works like Padma Purana and Brahma Vaivarta Purana, even Skanda Purana mentions all different gopis and things like this. But why is that possible? And the answer is that in this audience, not all people were qualified to hear all these things. So therefore, it gets hidden. And Sukadeva Goswami doesn't speak directly. But those who are more advanced in devotional service, then they can understand the intentions of Sukadeva Goswami. And even though the names of Radha and the principal gopis are not mentioned directly, you can understand it by the descriptions given in the from chapter 29 to 33, the different gopis, how they behave in relation to Krishna. Then we can understand who's who. So therefore our acharyas identify, oh, this one's Radha, this one's Lalita, this one's Vishaka, this one's Chandarali, like this. But they don't. Sukadeva Goswami doesn't mention directly. It's for the presentation was for everybody, and only those who are greater devotees get access to the higher knowledge. So therefore some things are covered, are not spoken directly in the Bhagavatam also because of that. So we had all these different types of sages here, like Devarshis and Brahmarshis and Rajarshis. So therefore Sukadeva didn't speak everything directly. But they all had some qualification, and they had some appreciation of the message, so therefore Sukadeva spoke to everybody. So Parikshit recognized all these people. He was a great king also, but of course he also recognized all these personalities who were there. And they came out of respect to him also. Not just to hear the message, but they came out of respect to him and out of regret that he was passing away. So he was grateful to them, and he acknowledged them by offering his respects. In the purport, Prabhupada also mentions that one offers, this is a humble way of getting excused for one's offenses. So it is said in relation to the Vaishnava aparad, you have to go to apologize to the person like that and ask for his forgiveness. So then one of the elements is offer your respects also like that. And this way, it's a simple way of getting excused for one's offenses or whatever. And the reason is, by this very act, if you have the right mentality also along with that, one is admitting one's low position. We're offering our respects to the Lord, we're a servant of the Lord, so we offer respects to a devotee we've offended, and we were saying that I'm your servant also. So this is a way of indicating that by the physical act of doing the pranamas. So the devotee, of course, doesn't intentionally try to offend people, but accidentally it may happen just because it's the material world, unintentionally, some offense, or we may have disturbed somebody for some reason that we don't even know about. So to do that, then we can just offer a general apology and then offer our respects on the ground, and this way we get absolved of that type of offense. So that's also a simple way of handling this problem of accidental offenses. Okay. Any question there?
No, it seems that Vedic culture is asking blessings and showing respect, etc. is taken very seriously. I know with the beginning of the Mahabharata, the battle, etc. And Arjuna, before the fight, he went to all his superiors, various Vishnu, etc., on the opposing side, and he said, they asked you for my blessing, for your blessings to defeat you. And they said, if you haven't asked for blessings, you know, you would be defeated, but you've asked for them, so therefore we offer that you will be victorious. So it seems that they, they were very liberal, but they took this sort of thing very seriously.
There was certain etiquette involved there, yeah? And the etiquette means, of course, that there is a certain type of respect given to everybody. And so even the enemy gets some respect. As I said, they would fight in the day, and at nighttime they would be equals and joke together with that. So they had their particular type of etiquette that they would have between each other, and they had a certain honor that was respected, even if they were the enemy or whatever. So if it's not an enemy, of course, then of course we have more respect offered to persons. And we'll see also that the whole cause of this was an etiquette breach. Parikshit Maharaj coming and not getting ignored, and then him disrespecting the Brahmana when he shouldn't have done. That was a breach of etiquette, and so there was, and then this caused the problem. And then the son of the Brahmana cursed him because of that breach of etiquette and honor or whatever like that. It was actually due from the king. So, etiquette was very important at that time. Of course, we can say that in one sense it's superficial. In the Western world, they have their etiquette also, politeness and whatever like that. And through that one can communicate and keep a peaceful society. But it's also maybe artificial in one sense, because you can't express yourself what you really feel about a person. So that's the negative side of the etiquette. Goes too far and it's too artificial, then it just covers up and represses your actual feelings, and what you're really thinking about the person doesn't ever surface or anything like that. So that's of course the bad aspect of it. Is too dependent. Everything is too dependent on etiquette, nothing else, and there's a problem also. So we say the medium is probably that people have to cultivate internally their own good qualities, and then this type of artificial etiquette wouldn't have to manifest, just to keep peace between persons who don't like each other.
Thank you for the class, Maharaj. Just a comment and a question. Comment is that in the 70s, today, remember that you were always on the ground. As soon as you met devotees, you might not see them for a
offering respects.
If ever there was any discrepancy, you'd always get down and take your best.
Yeah.
It seems to
they lost their respect for devotees over time. Yeah, it was very common in the early days, yes. So.
And the question is that all those different sages and teachers, etc., that came to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a spotless Purana and completely purifying to the heart, so is it a fact that they left with purifying hearts? I mean, it must have had an effect.
Yeah, obviously, of course, different with different groups. As I said, there are different types of people here, the Brahmarshis and the people more impersonalists, and then others were yogis, and others were in Karmakanda, etc. So, but they all got affected, obviously, because hearing from Sukadeva Goswami is going to have some effect on them. So, obviously influence, but obviously some get better affected, more affected than others. The more devotional they are, then the more affected is also there.
You sort of imagine that anybody who was there amongst all those exalted sages and hearing from Sukadeva Goswami, who's so spotless, that they would just their hearts would get cleaned automatically just from hearing, because that's the potency of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah, but of course it's at different levels. Just like Prabhupada was present, then various devotees, we get various levels of devotees also. Or even when Krishna is present, the demons, they don't get the same effect, even though, they get, if he kills them, they get liberation, but they don't get the same result as the devotees. So according to one's qualification, then one gets different results. Mm-hmm.
In relation to the story of Rama, when he goes to Dwarka and he doesn't know that they are all Brahmas, I'm just wondering, is there like a momentary illusion, or because we seem to know that there are many Brahmas and many universes, so he's not aware of it?
In that particular incident, when he went there, apparently not. Again, we see the same thing when, of course, when Krishna came to Vrindavan and he saw Krishna, a little boy, playing with his associates. He said, well, can you really be Supreme Lord? So I'll test him. So he apparently gets covered over in times like that. So we can say, of course, it's also explained that this covering over Brahma of our universe, this Brahma, was because of the Lord's will. Because he had promised at the beginning, you won't be fallen illusion. So if any illusion is not Brahma's fault, it's the Lord playing tricks in his mind to teach us something.
But in general, he's aware.
Yeah.
Because he's our original
Yeah. But of course we see every day he forgets how to create the universe. And he has to get the inspiration from the Supreme Lord himself.
Every single day he forgets.
Yeah, he forgets. He forgets every day. And then Lord has to teach him something every day. So, this means he's a jiva. He's not the Supreme Lord. He's dependent on the Lord for his knowledge.
And also, I have a question in relation to yesterday's class that the Master was mentioning how Brahma appears and I've never read that, so I found that very fascinating. I was wondering, I went back to Bhagavatam to have a look, but it's nothing mentioned there. So
The curse of...
yeah, that Brahma cursed Narada Muni.
Where is that? In the 4th canto, is it? There's Brahma, because he wants to be a brahmachari, and Narada Muni, so Brahma curses him. There's another curse again later on, I think, in which story is that? He gets cursed again.
In the 7th canto, I think he gets cursed to be a Sudra, but she's asking about the one before.
Yeah, where he becomes a brahmachari, yeah?
Gandharva.
Oh, the Gandharva curse.
In the
Oh,
Bhagavatam,
yeah. Oh, okay.
I went back
Yeah.
this morning to have a look.
Oh, he couldn't
Because
find it.
as far as I remember, he just told the story to Vyasadeva when he was the son of a Shudra, and then
It's in
he got
6th
absorbed in
canto.
the body of Mahavishnu at the end of the
Yeah. Isn't it the 6th canto maybe? Where is that story told where he gets cursed?
At the end of the 7th.
7th canto maybe, in the 7th canto
Oh.
possibly.
So Narada Muni gets cursed by Brahma.
Mm-hmm.
7th canto?
I think
Cursed
so.
to become a Sudra.
Yeah.
We mentioned yesterday he was cursed from the mouth to become a Gandharva. I think that's the one that's not mentioned in the Bhagavatam.
That's from Garga Samhita.
Oh, okay.
What is it from?
It's Garga Samhita.
Garga Samhita was the conversation between Krishna and Radha.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. 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 Hare Krishna.